Right. There was a large degree of hesitance that I had before recording footage for this game. If you can't tell by the title, it's Pokemon Mystery Dungeon's Gates to Infinity. I did say in my Super Mystery Dungeon video that I wouldn't play this game, but I thought I wasn't being fair to the people who actually enjoyed it. I, for one, despite the mixed feelings overall, enjoyed some aspects of the game. It's still hard for me to recommend this game as a must-play in the series, but it does have its pluses. So, in an effort to make this run last 100 hours, I have listed a bunch of goals for us to complete. We have to overcome the bitter cold, reach perfect rank, recruit all the legendary Pokemon, and the one mythical in this game, Meloetta. I also bounced around the idea of recruiting all the available Pokemon in the game, but ended up putting it aside. So, hello. Welcome back to the channel, and consider fiddling with the sub and like button as well as leaving a comment. They surely do help with the algorithm. In contrast to Explorers of Sky, Gates to Infinity was the first in the series to allow us to freely choose our starter regardless of the quiz's results. We're still keeping up with the channel tradition by picking a rather foolish Pikachu. The game opens at this serene environment which looked a lot like Tanjira's soul and promptly yeeted us down to earth. It wasn't very clear how we survived this colossal drop, but as we regained consciousness, we saw our partner. Well, not really. We had to choose our partner first before our vision could clear. I never chose Snivy in any of the Mystery Dungeon games, so off we go to partner with this smug-looking grass type. Our partner witnessed us falling from the sky, and after a moment, we decided to tell him that we were actually a human. This surprise reaction from Snivy was surely a staple of the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon games. Our partner shared his aspirations of adventuring and revealed that he was on his way to an important meeting. But the path ahead seemed tough and he asked us for help. Having nowhere else to go, we agreed and accompanied our partner. The first dungeon area was called Ragged Mountains, and this was something really different from the usual Mystery Dungeon formula. Gates to Infinity has areas where we could freely explore between the randomly generated floors, creating a more open sense of space. There were also objects that we could interact with to proceed with the story. Honestly, after playing the other games back to back, I really didn't mind this element of Gates to Infinity. What I did mind greatly was, of course, the horrendous text speed. This was the text speed after setting it to fast. Fast. In any case, we made it through Ragged Mountain and reached our partner's appointment location. We were just in time to meet with Quagsire and quickly find out that Snivy had intended to purchase this huge desolate plot of land. Our partner here named the land Paradise, and he would use it to make his dream come true, to become a full-fledged adventurer and to house anyone else who thought the same. He asked us what we were going to do from now on, and we agreed to stay with him for the time being, having nowhere else to go in the Pokemon world. We remembered the Munna that was being chased by a Hydreigon that we saw in our vision and solemnly steeled ourselves to find this Pokemon when the time is right. At night, we found that there was really nothing around the vicinity and decided to camp out on the ground. The next morning, we decided to seek out a carpenter in the nearby post town to combat the poor quality of sleep. By that, I mean build a house. Quagsire kindly led us to Post Town, as well as explaining the role of Post Town in the region. Post Town was built as a rest stop on this highway, built to provide respite for weary travelers. In the town itself, Quagsire explained that this town was known for its high-quality water, attracting a lot of Pokemon around to try. Here, we saw our first instance of altercation between the residents of Post Town. Quagsire told us that strife between Pokemon had seemingly been increasing lately, showing no signs of stopping. Our partner chimed in, saying that more and more Pokemon were only looking out for themselves. In that earlier instance, no one nearby even attempted to break up the altercation. Shortly after, we met these Timbers, who were a part of Post Town's carpentry business. We asked them to build us a house, and we were redirected to Girder. Girder was intimidating, to say the least. However, he did agree to build our house for us in exchange for some gems that we needed to procure. These gems would then serve as the payment for the house. Girder told us to go to Stony Cave for the gems, and off we go. Well, we were about to go, but the Timbers were acting mighty sus. Quagsire told us to be careful, and he said some pretty nice things here. We cleared Stony Cave in a flash and brought back the gems. Right as we entered Post Town, this Scraggy bumped into us, and we brushed it off quickly to see Girder. Once asked for, the gems had mysteriously disappeared from our partner's pockets. Girder wouldn't build us a house without the gems, so we were on our way to go back to Stony Cave. We saw the Scraggy on the way out and decided to ask him about the missing gems, but the Timbers caught up to us and explained that Scraggy and Girder was running a scam together. Scraggy would steal the gems, and both would profit from it. We were directed to Hazy Pass by the Timbers, the usual meeting spot for Scraggy and Girder. Hazy Pass was another open space and dungeon hybrid, which wasn't too hard. We tackled some logs to open new paths forward, and eventually found the Scraggy. Our character sensed someone coming and asked our partner to hide. we witnessed the crooked deal between Girder and Scraggy and eventually confronted them. The battle that followed after didn't last very long, and the two Timbers caught up and pleaded with their boss to stop doing bad things. Girder thumped his two lackeys and went deeper inside the dungeon. The Timbers shared their rather somber backstory and insisted that Girder was very kind deep down. Our partner decided that Girder must be the one to build our house and followed him to the dungeon. Accompanied by the two Timbers, we finally caught up to the Carpenter at the end of Hazy Pass. After a short cutscene, we proceeded to start the battle. We pretty much nullified Girder's attacks with growls and just ganked on him for the rest of the fight. The two Timbers kept pleading with their boss, and we insisted Girder to build our house. And, well, we got him to. No harm, no foul. And we got a house. A very cozy and quaint one. The next day, we got the rundown on how the request system works, and we're pretty much caught up with the usual Pokemon Mystery Dungeon mechanics. During this hour, we also cleared the first mission to save Dunsparce, where we also met Emolga. Dunsparce had a dream to become an adventurer, though he was disheartened by his lack of abilities. He had apparently ventured in the previous dungeon to collect a crystal so he could give it to the town idol, Virizion. During a conversation in the inn, Herdier told us that Post Town used to be the cornerstone of the region because of the Rainbows of Hope, but since their disappearance, things had been looking grim. Dunsparce took his shot after some coercion from the gang and asked the grass-type legendary to be his friend, but he was promptly rejected. He couldn't take the awkward social situation and ran away. Our partner scolded the lady, to which Virizion replied quite coldly. The rest of the town seemed to take the rejection as some sort of celebration, though. Everyone had been rejected by Virizion. We hurried after Dunsparce, who apparently had been tricked by some rough-looking poniards, chasing a quick fix to get stronger. The first 2 hours of this game is quite story-heavy, so the pacing will be a fair bit slower on the early hours. There will also not much variety in terms of gameplay. The group finally caught up to Dunsparce and the poniards, and the crooks came quite prepared. They spawned their ambush, backing us into a corner. But Virizion had seen the whole incident unfold and called the residents of Post Town to help. I say residents, but it was really just the carpenters. With similar numbers, we bested the ambush. Virizion brought up the topic of trust again, and our partner here always had something positive to say. To further reinforce his statements, we invited Dunsparce and Emolga into our team. Surprisingly, Virizion herself asked to join as well, much to Emolga's dismay. Our partner accepted her request at a moment's notice, asking Virizion to trust all of us if she were to join the team. The reason? He was just excited to have someone request to join. In a flashback, we saw that Girder played a big part in convincing Virizion to join. The next day, we had to choose a team name, and it's been a while since we brought up Wally in this channel. Feels good. Scraggy came to Paradise to work as our move tutor. Many thanks to Quagsire here for making that happen. During the same hour, Girder and crew made their home in Paradise, ready to upgrade our fields and make facilities. In Gates to Infinity, we're able to grow our own berries and seeds, a much needed quality of life improvement, really. It's a shame they didn't carry this over to the subsequent Mystery Dungeon games. Somewhere during the third hour, we were able to raise our Paradise rank to Bronze. There was also the introduction of the V-Wave, a random type-specific buff that happens every day. It makes the corresponding type stronger when adventuring in a dungeon. Victini showed up and tried to fulfill its role as the comic relief. This whole V-Wheel bit was running dry really quickly. 6 out of 10. Then, we started having the dreams again. You know, the one with a mysterious voice before we were summoned to the Pokemon world. Not long after, we reached Paradise rank Silver. The next day, the gang made their way to the lookout point at Post Town and saw a mirage off in the distance. Virizion told the group that the mirage was actually a place called the Great Glacier, a place where no one had seemingly stepped foot in. Our partner, being the optimistic adventurer that he was, proclaimed that someday we would be the first to explore the Great Glacier. We spent the rest of the hour building facilities and dojos and completing requests as usual. Dream time. Again. Our characters' dreams started to get a bit clearer, and we could hear the voice asking for help once more. We confided with our partner about the dreams, and he reassured us that should the time come to take action, we would certainly do so. Outside, we got a notice about a suspicious Pokemon lurking about Post Town. Our partner made a good point here about most of Post Town's residents being suspicious by default. I mean, we could take Quagsire here to start with. I believe there is a much deeper and profound reason for his existence, like being a failed evolution for a Wooper, for example. Well, other than that, he was also an ex-torturer. Real story, this was in the game. Though calling him a torturer might be a bit of a stretch. Herdier admitted that the residents of the town felt down in the dumps after the rainbows of hope stopped appearing, but that didn't stop our partner's positivity. What a guy. What a solid guy. Not much to do after this since we were waiting for the story to progress, so we did more renovations and construction projects. The next morning didn't start off so nicely, with Livani coming in with the news that her son, Swadloon, had gone missing. This was a no-brainer. We set off to Inflora Forest right away to find Swadloon. There had been the occasional cutscenes of a figure running around in between days. I figured I should include this. As we progressed through the forest, we could see Swadloon digging up a series of inconspicuous set of cards, along with a red gem. Excited about his findings, Swadloon was too preoccupied to notice that someone was creeping up behind him. Always be careful when digging treasures in forests, kids. And, well, maybe don't go alone in the first place. We eventually made it to the clearing where Swadloon was and found him safe. We were glad to find the little man and brought him back to his mother. Back in paradise, Swadloon explained that he went into the forest to find a gift for his mother's birthday, and the three had a nice group hug. This is Lillipup, by the way, Swadloon's friend, not that he got that much screen time. But we were left with a question. Who was that figure that crept up on Swadloon? Let me just find the right sound for this. There we go. Still in the same hour, we got a rather heavy backstory here. Looking back at the Swadloon incident, our partner revealed that he didn't have any family and friends, and wondered if we had anyone like that back in the human world. He also wished that everyone would get along a little bit better. I can't with this guy. He's too pure. And still in the same hour, Emolga came to us with a report that a suspicious Pokemon had collapsed near Post Town, though unsure if this Pokemon was the same one from the earlier reports. We checked the inn to find Umbreon, who the residents were wary of until Virizion came along and cleared his name. Virizion told us that Umbreon was a researcher known to study the Great Glacier. She also mentioned that Umbreon had a partner, Espeon, but she was nowhere to be seen. There was little point mulling over the problem while Umbreon was out cold, so we decided to do the dungeon crawling thing. Finally at the 6th hour. Again, don't worry, the pacing of the hours will speed up after the main story ends. Umbreon woke up and desperately tried to go to Espeon, but he was far too weak. He shared that both he and Espeon were on the run from a group of strangers that attacked them, most likely after their enter cards. Ooh boy, we've seen these before. Umbreon tried to explain what the cards were, but everyone fell asleep. These ungrateful mugs. This was some Wally level behavior. To keep us from falling asleep, Umbreon would just show us directly. The enter cards were used to manipulate ley lines, some sort of mysterious power that exists in the lands. The cards manipulate the paths that these ley lines follow, and in turn we could create an entrance to a dungeon. I really don't know if I'm explaining this correctly. The game itself doesn't really go in details about these ley lines and mysteriosity. But I digress. Long story short, Umbreon could open a portal to where Espeon was, and we were going to save her. We traversed the Crags of Lament and saw Espeon getting cornered by a Toxicroak and Purugly at the end. The Croak skedaddled and we headed back to Post Town. Back in Post Town, the gang wondered what could be the objective of the Crooks and came to the conclusion that they were after the enter cards. Why, you ask? To go to the Great Glacier. Umbreon and Espeon had dedicated their lives studying the Great Glacier, as well as the Great Crystal that was said to lie deep within the glacier. Swadloon made an appearance again, and apparently it was Espeon who had ambushed him in the forest. Espeon gave Swadloon the cards for safekeeping, giving the little guy the red gem in exchange. Not the best move, but we all moved on pretty quickly. At night, we resolved to help the two evolutions on their quest. We came to tell them, but apparently the two had already made up their mind to ask us to go along with them to the Great Glacier. That's right, boys and gals, we do be going to the Great Glacier. How many times have I said Great Glacier? Alright, so 14 minutes in the video, apparently I have mispronounced glacier. It's not glacier, but glacier. So I hope you guys had fun with the mispronunciation of the word glacier. Back to the video. Umbreon and Espeon join our team, and now we wait for them to finish their research. During the course of the next few days, the team came to a realization that somebody had to stay behind and guard Paradise. Dunsparce really wanted to go, but he felt like he was the most useless one there. There were a lot of, no, I'll stay behind moments, but Virizion ended up staying behind. Umbreon and Espeon told us that Virizion stopped believing others after her best friend, Keldeo, went off to take on the Great Glacier and never came back, which really gave her a reason to have to go. Keldeo even sent her a mean letter saying that the two of them were never really friends. In any case, Emolga insisted that we should draw straws and leave it to chance, so we went along with it. Dunsparce got the short end, and he made peace with the fact that he had to stay behind. We did some more missions, and apparently, We already reached Gold Paradise rank at this point, but I'm really not sure when. I must have missed the rank up, but during the 8th hour, Paradise had reached the Platinum rank. And at the 9th hour, we got the fancy sounding Diamond rank. I'll spare you the long dialogues, and here we are, about to go to the Great Unknown. Amolga did the unthinkable. Not really, we could see this coming from 3 miles away. He pushed Dunsparce in. The two exchanged tears, and off we go inside the Magna Gate. Despite splitting off into 2 groups, we cleared the connecting dungeon and arrived at the clearing just before the Great Glacier. The group hyped itself up and delved deeper into the Ice Fortress. I don't remember why Dunsparce wasn't included in this team, but it is what it is. We somewhat reached an impasse at the end of the dungeon, with the landscape introducing a huge crevasse on our path. We noticed a mark on the ground similar to what our own Magna Gate left, and tried our luck opening another Magna Gate. Surely enough, the enter cards placed on this ley line opened a Magna Gate to the Great Glacier. The mystery of the used Magna Gate remained unsolved, and onwards we went. The group cleared another dungeon in not so record time, and we found ourselves exiting the dungeon safely. Much to our surprise, we were now inside the glacier. Noting the Pillars of Ice in the middle, we marked it as our next destination and ventured even further. Surely the Pillars of Ice would be where the Great Crystal is. During our trek up the next dungeon, we discovered these prisms, which hold the ability to record anything spoken into it. When rubbed, it would play back the recorded audio. Among the ones on the ground, we found one prism already activated, playing back Keldeo's voice when prompted. Virizion noted that this Keldeo seemed more like her friend, unlike the one that sent the letter. At the end of the Glacier Palace dungeon, we finally got a boss fight. It was a bunch of Cryogonals and a Golurk, which proved to be a type advantage against our Pikachu here. Not everyone else, though. After the battle, the group followed the path to the peak. The path proved to be challenging, with everyone else but our character getting increasingly debilitated. How were we the only one unaffected? Kyurem came down and transported everyone back to the path entrance, telling us that at the end of the path lied a great power that even Kyurem couldn't approach. Kyurem gave us some treasure instead, so we didn't really come back empty-handed. And life was back to normal. We tinkered with the facilities in Paradise, went out on missions, the usual routine. Just kidding, now we have to deal with the dreams. Over the course of the next few days, the dreams kept getting more high definition. By that I just mean we could hear the voice better. During a conversation about our future in the Pokemon world, our partner pleaded that we should stay in the Pokemon world forever after finishing our task here. We would then go through a couple of existential crises. We let the crises cook for the hour and went on some more missions. The Dream Bandit finally got through. It was Muna. She told us she was being chased around by Hydreigon, a terrifying being that wanted to destroy the world. Now that things were clearer, it was time to tell the others. Some were surprised by the fact that we were a human, and I suppose the overall situation. Thanks to Virizion, the others ended up believing the quite bizarre setting. It was decided that only us and our partner would go, and Umbreon and Espeon would help set up the enter cards to find Muna. We went through another gate, finished a dungeon, found ourselves in a forest, and camped out for the night. The Dream Bandit Muna popped out again, and ushered us to hurry and save her, so I guess we had to go. We finished the next mystery dungeon bit and rushed ahead. The two came to a clearing and found Muna in the dark of the night. But plot twist time, it was a trap. A trap to lure us, the human, and kill us. How could this be? Well, we attacked the chandeliers to make everything go dark again and fled the scene. Unfortunately, we got separated from our partner. While trying to make sense of things, we cleared the next dungeon alone. Eventually cornered, we fought this boss battle and won, but things weren't looking so good. Not good at all, actually. But we had the plot armor as this Hydreigon swept in and saved us. Hydreigon, the destroyer of worlds, the crusher and devourer of small yellow rodents? Nope, he was a nice guy after all. Hydreigon was actually the physical manifestation of the voice of life, the very same one who summoned us into this world. Muna was the one who interfered and changed things for her own gain. But there was no time to rest, and we had to escape from Muna's gang. This dungeon was pretty tough because of our type disadvantage, but Hydreigon here was level 64, so it wasn't too bad. At night, Hydreigon told us about the Bitter Cold, who was the manifestation of all the negative feelings in the world, and no Pokemon could get close to it. That's right, that very same feeling the group experienced at the Glacial Palace. Long story short, the Bitter Cold eats away at the world and will eventually cause the world's destruction. We were summoned into this world to stop the Bitter Cold, the very same one Kyurem guarded. Kyurem employed Muna to hunt down humans that had been summoned just like us, and it seemed like we were the only one left. Eventually, Muna's crooks did get to us and told us that they had captured our partner. Against Hydreigon's wishes, we went immediately to the Whole Hills. This dungeon was pretty annoying too. Our typing once again didn't help. Rescue time. Aware of a possible trap, we sneaked in and knocked out the Toxicroak guard, only to find that the voice inside the prison was from a Frism. Nice rhyme. But you see, we saw that coming. Hydreigon nuked the place and created a hole, where we dove right in to look for our partner. We found him somewhere inside the cave systems and ran away at the speed of light. We filled in our partner with the current situation and tried to make our way back to Post Town. The next dungeon was, of course, another ground and rock type dungeon. Thankfully, we had our partner here though. Once we finished the dungeon, we would be able to get to Post Town after this desert stretch. Alas, nothing nice could ever come our way. Kyurem came though. He blasted Hydreigon to smithereens and basically curb stomped us multiple times. Our partner begged for Kyurem to stop, and he stopped because we lost the will to fight? I honestly really don't get this part. How could Kyurem be so sure that we would never gain back the will to fight? In any case, the legendary Pokemon told us that the lights that had been popping up around the world were actually human souls, sent back because they were defeated by Kyurem and his allies. We weren't moving after Kyurem left, and the rest of the anti-Wally gang came to rescue us. But how did they know where we were? Well, apparently, the voice of life told them. We filled everyone in on the situation surrounding the bitter cold and vowed to stop it. Time to tell the town residents. Our partner gave a rallying speech, but the residents were too caught up in their own problems to care. Everyone except for Swanna, and I suppose the others who came later that night. Maybe the negativity hadn't come for everyone after all. Umbreon and Espeon gave us the enter cards required to go to the Great Glacier and planned to meet us in the middle. Before proceeding though, we took care of some business in Paradise. The game wouldn't let me do any more missions, so off we go back to the Great Glacier with the enter cards. We ended up in a different dungeon, but made it through nonetheless. There was this boss battle bit with the chandeliers and the salamence, but it wasn't bad at all. Emolga almost kicked the bucket because of his carelessness, but Espeon came in time to save him. The group pondered for some time on how to reach the now floating Glacial Palace, but somebody had seemingly left enter cards for us to use. Umbreon and Espeon agreed that it was probably Keldeo. Back home, our boy Dunsparce wouldn't let any kind of negativity make its course. At the floating palace, we safely made it aboard. Emolga asked how we were going to get back, and the two evolutions assured everyone that it would be fine. But that was a lie, you see. A white lie. We caught up with Virizion and Emolga not long after, beating a number of Muna's crooks. At another part of the palace, Umbreon and Espeon managed to find the injured Keldeo. He wasn't dead after all. We reached the end of yet another part of the palace's dungeons, and finally came face to face with Muna and her gang. This one took a couple of tries. The number disadvantage really made it a pain to clear. Before we could move on, we were of course subjected to the baddies' backstory. Muna and the others were a ragtag bunch who lost faith in the world, hellbent on helping Kyurem so that they could disappear. And then our partner came in clutch with the silver words. Espeon, Umbreon, and Keldeo made their appearance, all trying to convince Muna to not help the bitter cold. Her underlings pretty much just sniffled the entire time. 10 out of 10 script writing. The scene got quite emotional, but it was really lengthy. The Glacial Palace started to crumble along with the world's destruction, and Muna shoved us to safety after being convinced by our partner. It was time to confront the bitter cold. Before that, Keldeo apologized to Virizion about the nasty letter. We went through one final dungeon before the bitter cold and was stopped by Kyurem. Gates to Infinity enabled the use of orbs in boss rooms, so getting through Kyurem was easy with some all-dodge and all-power orbs. Eat shit, big guy. Even Kyurem was convinced by our will and spirit at the end. On our way to face the bitter cold, our partner couldn't take the power emitted by the otherworldly entity. It was even affecting us too. The game cycled through the Goku-style moral support, and we were placed in this battle that we couldn't win. Things were looking bad again, and everyone at Post Town were losing hope. That was until Dunsparce rallied us back and gave us a second helping of the Goku-style moral support. As we fought back, the first rainbow of hope appeared, driving us forward. This little yellow rat defeated the bitter cold, and not just one, not just two, but 4 rainbows came back. The ultimate form of the rainbows of hope. As the Glacier Palace collapsed, Kyurem offered his thanks for what we did and transported everyone out of the palace. And we did it. We saved the world. Hydreigon amassed enough power to physically manifest again, and the whole of Post Town celebrated. There was obviously a great deal of dialogue that went on during the celebrations, but I can't really cover all of it. Though Gates to Infinity isn't really known for its great story writing, I believe there are a lot of good bits scattered around the story. During the conversation with Hydreigon, we realized that we had to break our promise to our partner. We would have to go back to the human world, erasing any trace of our existence here, including the memory of our very being. To make leaving easier on us and our partner, we left the next morning without saying goodbye. Enveloped in a ball of light, we activated the prism our partner left us and listened to the messages everyone left. Well, surprise, surprise, everyone still remembered us. Keldeo and Hydreigon requested to join the team, to which they were very welcome. After that, we assumed control of our partner and went on the usual missions. And now we have come to the postgame. The whole of the postgame is revolved around trying to find a way for us to bring our character back to the Pokemon world, led by Hydreigon and our partner. There was also this bit where Hydreigon broke the fourth wall. Finally, it was time for us to venture deep into the world core, where we have to wish to the Voices of Life to grant our character the ability to move freely between the Pokemon and human worlds. The world core dungeon was actually pretty hard with the Snivy. It took multiple tries to get through. We made it to the end eventually, and came to this clearing that didn't seem to be inside of a cave underground. This was actually my favorite part of the game. We were given a choice to come back to the Pokemon world, and we had the option to refuse. If you refuse enough times, the game will actually accept that choice and leave you out of the game from then on. I just thought this was a nice touch to the ending. Some people might think having the main character stay in the human world a better choice. But for the sake of this video, we returned to the Pokemon world, and all was good again. And that was pretty much the end of any more content in this game. The rest of the run would be spent trying to achieve the objectives. At hour 24, we evolved our partner into a Servine, and we doubled down not long after, evolving him further into a Serperior. We were able to reach the Super rank at the 25th hour, and this is practically what the rest of the video will be about. Clearing missions to gain ranks and upgrading Paradise. There really wasn't much left to do. It wasn't until the 32nd hour that we were able to rank up to Hyper rank. With the new rank, we were able to clear out more lands and build more facilities. We also had to break treasure boxes to unlock more IQs and team tactics, so this was fun. This was probably the first time in my life that I had to play on 800% speed. I have about an hour's footage of just breaking boxes. It took a long time, but we were able to reach Master rank for our Paradise. Similar to the previous rank ups, we cleared out more lands and made way for more facilities. During our quest for legendaries and mythicals, we encountered Meloetta in Paradise, but we could only recruit Meloetta if we agreed to build its facility. During the 47th hour, the facility was done, but I didn't know we had to choose a song first before Meloetta would join us. The mythical Pokemon would join us later down the line. At this point, we still had 15,000 points to reach the next rank, and the highest grossing mission was capped at 1,300 points. The path to ranking up was a real struggle. It wasn't until the 54th hour that we finally reached Royal rank. This was the rank where all the recruitment missions for the legendaries were supposed to pop up. I was quite optimistic at this point despite the very repetitive gameplay, but little did I know that the RNG gods weren't at my side. Before we touch that topic further, Meloetta finally joined us around this time frame. I didn't exactly return to the main menu to see the hour count, so this will have to do. First, let me get the Terrakion recruitment out of the way. At the 64th hour, we obtain our first proper legendary. So as you can see on the screen, the next time frame spans from hour 65 to 95. To get to perfect rank, the last rank available, you would need to earn 99,999 points. Again, the highest grossing mission points capped at 1,300 points, so this did take forever. It also didn't help that we couldn't stack missions on one dungeon run. This was probably the worst quality of life downgrade. The fact that it took forever didn't put me off too much, really. What infuriated me was I couldn't get the Cobalion recruitment mission during this time frame. I am 99% positive that I read the bulletin board carefully after each mission, and the Cobalion name just never popped up. For those of you wondering, Cobalion and Terrakion could only be recruited through challenge missions on the board, and they can only spawn after we obtain the Royal rank. We obtained Royal rank at hour 54, and still didn't get the stupid Cobalion mission even after we reached perfect rank. For reference, we got the perfect rank at around the 86th hour mark, and I played for a good 10 hours or so after that trying to look for the Cobalion mission. There were also the weather trio, that being Thunderous, Landorus, and Tornadus, but their spawns were RNG based also, and 2 out of the 3 only spawn at high mysteriosity dungeons. After the 95th hour, it had been a month since I started this run, and I think I had reached my limit. There was really not much propelling the gameplay forward, and the repetitive nature of the gameplay had worn the charm out of it. Nevertheless, I am quite satisfied with what I've achieved during this run. It's a shame I couldn't get the last 4 legendaries, but perhaps I'll do that in my own time. Hello, Postscript Indutro here. I did play it in my own time on my phone, my totally legit device, and I think it took me about 10 hours after this recording to get all the legendaries. Great fun. But with that, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care.